The Epstein files change everything. And if you've read them, even pieces of them, something inside you's changed. You felt it. It's that uncomfortable feeling you get in your gut that tells you this is real, this happened, and the world you thought you understood just got a lot darker. Now, I know a lot of you have been following this story for years, and for you, these files are confirmation of what you've probably already suspected. But for millions of other Americans, this is brand new. This is the first time they're seeing names, dates, locations, flight logs, and they're realizing that the most powerful people in this country were involved in something that most of us can't even wrap our heads around. No, we're not talking about a political scandal. We're not talking about some controversy. We're talking about the abuse, the trafficking, the torture, and yes, the murder of children by people whose names you know. People who are very powerful in this country. People who shape the culture that your kids grow up in, that my kids grow up in. And here's what makes it even harder to stomach. While the average American is working 50, 60 hours a week just trying to keep the lights on, while you're skipping your vacations, you're cutting back on groceries, stressed out about rent, utilities, etc. These people are living in a completely different world. A world of private islands and private jets with absolute impunity. A world where they can steal, launder, blackmail, and do things to children that I can barely bring myself to say out loud. So, what do you even do with this information? I mean, when you see something like this, something this disturbing, you really only have a couple of options. You can try to look away, push it out of your mind, get back to your routine, pretend you didn't see it. Or you can do what I think most of you watching this are wired to do. You dig in. You start asking questions. But once you start asking questions, you can't stop. Questions like, who did Epstein actually report to? Because this guy was not operating alone. He wasn't the top of the food chain, so who was above him? Why does his name keep showing up next to the Rothschild family? What's that connection? Why do so many famous, powerful, successful people do such horrific things? Like, what would compel someone who has everything to participate in something like that? And here's the one that really gets people, really gets me. Why does Satanism or Luciferianism or whatever you call it, why does that keep showing up over and over again? In the symbols, the rituals, the testimonies of survivors. Why? And then you take a step back and you look at the names on that list and you notice something. These aren't just random, rich, wealthy people. These are people who represent virtually every major institution in our society. Education, media, technology, politics, law, entertainment, banking, every single pillar. So when you look at all that together, all of it, you stop seeing isolated incidents. You start seeing a web, an intricate, coordinated web of corruption and blackmail and control operating at the very top of our society. And Epstein is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, to help you understand what that iceberg actually looks like, like beneath the surface. I recently sat down with a woman named Max Lowen. You can actually watch the full interview in the description link below. So Max is a survivor of satanic ritual abuse. And what she lived through makes Epstein's files look like a footnote. And as she told me, Epstein was just one, not even a very high level, broker of children. That the operation goes much, much deeper than one man with a private island. And it's much darker than using children just as blackmail puppets, as bad as that is. So listen to how she describes it. She also gives a little bit of her own background here. I'll warn you though, this is really, really dark. So just know that going in, it's hard to listen to.
Epstein is the tip of the iceberg. He's one not even very high level broker of children. He wouldn't have been responsible for trafficking them. That would have been the CIA and all of their affiliates. Where I was trafficked and put through satanic rituals and tortured is in the Vatican, and a Jesuit facility that's under the ground in Rome. So I would be in the facility, I would be put through different experiments, various forms of torture, things like electric shock, extreme temperatures like being put in a freezer, all kinds of bodily harm. I don't know if you can say the R word, if it would be censored, but
no, you can speak pretty open. I'll make sure I give people an appropriate warning beforehand. Yeah.
Okay. So, rapes, being kept in cages and isolation, being starved, being forced to make impossible choices, like I had to decide whether one person got killed or a different one got killed. And if I wouldn't choose, then they would both be killed. Being put through just extreme, being buried alive, waterboarded. If you can imagine it as a form of torture, they did it to me and many other children. I was forced to watch the torture and horrifically brutal, slow murder of animals, other people. They have an altar there and they sacrifice children. So first they brutalize them so that the adrenaline is secreted in the blood. And then in a ceremonial fashion with a special knife, they cut them open while they're alive. The blood is collected in these chalices, it's drunk. There would be people in attendance that you would consider VIPs of everything religious, actors and actresses, corporate CEOs, anyone, any kind of who's who in the zoo type people. And they would do these rituals in homage to Lucifer.
I know that's heavy, but here's why I'm showing you this, because what Max describes about who's behind all this, the actual power structure of this world, it lines up perfectly with what the Epstein files are showing us, just on a scale that most people aren't ready for. And to be honest, it's also a level of evil I think most people aren't ready for yet either. So when I asked her to explain that power structure in more detail, here's what she said.
Well, that saying all the world's a stage is actually literally true. The hierarchy, if you view it as a pyramid, then the bottom layer is us, it's humanity, and we're holding up this power structure. The layer right above us are presidents, heads of states, prime ministers, politicians. They're actually actors purely. They don't actually have much power in terms of the rest of the hierarchy. They're the face front to us. And then we're told, oh, there's this choice, the left or the right. They're all working for the same overlords. There's actually, these people behind the scenes are all partying together and, raping children together. So that's a false thing, but it's designed to keep us divided and fighting each other and add in gender and race and everything else, so that we won't notice that, the people above that are abusing us and harvesting us. So that's just something important to know, that that's all a show. I call it like the former president. I say it was Blue Donkey Productions starring Joe Biden, and now it's Red Elephant Productions starring Donald Trump. Now, a lot of people are going to get mad about that because the Savior program is so strong. It's another program. It's a mind control program for us to keep us passive, to keep us doing nothing and waiting for someone to come save us. So then after that layer, that bottom layer that faces us, you have all these other layers, and it includes things like you mentioned, like the Committee of 300 and, militaries and generals and the CIA, and so all the intelligence agencies. And then you go a little higher and you get entities like the Vatican, the Freemasons, the Illuminati. They all work together, but they're sort of sub-factions. The entire world is basically run by a satanic cult. They're psychopaths, they're pedophiles, they're parasitic. So they harvest us physically, etherically, spiritually. And so at the tippy top of the pyramid, and this is going to sound, we're already in crazy land for some people with what's released in Epstein, so I'll just go there, but they're not human, okay? So these are interdimensional beings that have come to this planet, that have taken it over, and they are dark. They are evil. And so they are patriarchal. So they have created everything in that image. And then the whole hierarchy is completely compartmentalized. So different rungs have different tasks and things that they do, and they have different amounts of the big picture. And right below that tippy top, and still above all the things like the Vatican and the Freemasons or whatever, are covens, believe it or not. So practitioners of black magic, that's a big part of the control structure. So that, ask me more questions, but that's basically the hierarchies.
Did you catch that? The bottom of that pyramid, right here at the very bottom, that's us. We're holding the whole thing up. And the layer right above us, the presidents, the prime ministers, the politicians, they're not running anything. They're just the front. They're the actors. They're just the low-level pawns, and their job is just to keep the masses distracted and focused on fighting each other. Now, the scary part, though, is what's above them, right? Militaries, intelligence agencies, secret societies. And on top of that, well, I think she said it pretty bluntly. The entire world is basically run by a satanic cult. Let's let that sink in together. The world is run by a satanic cult. Perhaps that's why the world feels like it's going to hell in a handbasket. But she goes into more detail about this. Watch here.
Every institution that we have on this planet, everything has been either created or infiltrated by this cult. So that's why no one's getting arrested, because they control the military and the police and the justice system. And so, for example, the medical system, we used to have, real healing like herbs and energetic healing. And then the Rockefellers, which are one of the bloodline families, that's a layer in that hierarchy as well. They created the allopathic medical system deliberately to slow poison us and slow kill us, profit off that process, and then shorten our lifespan and kill us prematurely. So that entire system, this is hard for the human to grok because we've been taught to trust these people. We look at them as like our parental figures, benevolent, and they're not. They're actually as a good example, the medical and pharmaceutical system are designed to harm us by its inherent design. See? So, then everyone knows the food is toxic, the water is fluoridated, they spray us with chemtrails. Like, these people, they worship Lucifer, they worship dark demonic entities. They are a death cult. They also need us because they're parasitic.
Now, here's where I need you to stay with me. When you take the information from the Epstein files and you extrapolate from it and you piece it all together, and then you hear what Max is saying, which, by the way, is nearly identical to what I've heard from many other survivors just like her, you arrive at a conclusion. And the conclusion is this: the world is run by psychopaths. Not careless people, not misguided people, evil people. People who worship darkness. And as Max said, those people consider us cattle. Let that sink in for a second. I know how that sounds. It sounds almost insane to someone who's hearing it for the first time. But just look at the evidence. Follow the threads. Because when you actually accept just the possibility that this might be true, suddenly everything starts to make a lot of sense. This is why they're poisoning our air, our water, our food. It's not by accident. It's not through negligence. It's by design. This is why the pharmaceutical industry, which is supposed to heal us, is slowly, systematically making us sicker. Max said it plainly. The system is designed to harm us by its inherent design. So this is why Hollywood and the music industry are openly satanic. Like, openly satanic. They're not even hiding it anymore. They don't even feel like they have to. This is why they teach children evolution. We came from monkeys. There's no God. We're just animals. They want you disconnected from the very thing that gives you power. This is why the true history of the human race has been hidden from you, rewritten, buried. Because if you knew the truth about where we came from and who we are, you'd never comply. You start to see it. These people don't just have influence. They control everything. They shape your entire worldview from the day you're born. The schools, the screens, the stories, the systems. As Max said, every institution on this planet has been either created or infiltrated by this cult. That's why no one gets arrested. They control the military, the police, the justice system. Look, they're not going to arrest themselves. And once you see it, though, you can't unsee it. You'll never watch a movie the same way. You'll never listen to the news the same way. You'll never look at a political campaign the same way, because you'll see the strings. Now, this next part, it matters more than everything I just said. So we've been told our entire lives, especially here in America, that politics is the answer. If we just elect the right person, everything gets better. That the system works, we just need to use it right. And every 4 years, we fall for it again. The same story, the same promises, the same disappointment, the same blame on the other side. But one of the most powerful tools these people have, it isn't blackmail, it isn't the money, it isn't the secrecy. It's this. It's getting us to fight each other. Think about it. Left versus right, black versus white, straight versus gay, vaxxed versus unvaxxed. Max nailed it in that interview. She said the division left, right, gender, race. It's all designed to keep us fighting each other so we won't notice that the people up above us are harvesting us. They have intentionally built a society that runs on tension, on division, on hatred, on entire groups of people despising, even wishing death upon other groups of people. And why? Why do these people think like that? For one reason. Because they were programmed to. We were programmed to. We didn't come up with that hatred on our own. It was put there carefully, deliberately, almost surgically. Over the years and decades, through the media they control, the education system they designed, the culture they manufactured, they need us divided. Because the moment that we unite, their power disappears. So here's the question. Now that you've seen this, now that the Epstein files have cracked the door open just enough for the light to get in, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep believing that politicians will save you and keep watching their media, their literal propaganda, and let it shape what you think? Are you going to keep consuming their movies and their music while it rots away everything you believe in? Are you going to keep hating your neighbor because of who they voted for? Or are you going to do something different this time? Are you going to use this moment to finally lay down the weapons they put in your hands? To stop fighting the people they told you to fight? What if we forgave each other? What if we recognized our own failures instead of obsessing over everyone else's? What if we looked at the person across the aisle, across the street, across the dinner table and said, "You are not my enemy. You never were." Because here's the truth. You and your neighbor, no matter what they believe, no matter who they voted for, you have more in common with each other than you will ever have in common with the people at the top of that pyramid. And there's one principle, there's just this one principle, I want you to hold on to this, that can unite us. It's this. Our world is being run by an evil cult. And that cult is a far greater enemy than our neighbor will ever be. That's where it starts. Not with a political party, not with an election, with us. Looking at each other and choosing to see a fellow human being instead of an opponent. They want us divided. They need us divided. And as Max reminded us, they need us. We don't need them. We never did. So maybe, just maybe, the most revolutionary thing that you can do right now is to love your neighbor. I'm Seth Holhouse, and this is Man in America. I'll see you.